the problem we are dealing with, there is no single organization that can do it. If government has not done it, then we must have the humility as organizations.
DDwithMaqC coming to you live, not quite live, but yes, we are having this wonderful shoot with Dr. John Mugo. And the last time we spoke, we were talking about Zizi Afrique Limited, Zizi Afrique Foundation, and now it's becoming Mizizi Elimu Afrika. So you're launching the strategic plan this first quarter of the 2026 period. What is contained in it as we begin to call it what its new name is?
Yeah, the first thing is the longer term vision of looking to a 15-year horizon as opposed to what we were used to, which were 5-year horizons. And it's because such a complex and big issue requires also longer term change. It will happen over the long haul. And the second thing is the shift into the ways we've been working from an organization that was basically receiving funding and working on its own and delivering impact to one that is building the ecosystem and activating and catalyzing others and supporting other organizations to become better and more impactful. Because the problem we are dealing with, there is no single organization that can do it. If government has not done it, then we must have the humility as organizations. And that perspective to it is also how we are planning the resources, how we are able to engage in longer term relationships with people, with funders, how we are able to activate new relationships with private sector and other people that need to come in. So that's what has led us to the new strategy, which is around 3 goals.
Right.
The first goal is around stronger foundations. The second one is stronger education systems. And the third one is stronger ecosystems for change. By stronger foundations, we mean unless if children have the foundational skills they need at the beginning and the onset of the education system, then they struggle for the rest of the time. And this include things like literacy, that children have to read by the end of grade 3, be able to read fluently and with understanding and comprehension. They need to have a new foundational numeracy, they are able to reason with numbers. And they also need values and life skills. These skills like communication, like being able to collaborate and work with others, problem solving and critical thinking and those others. And so our concept of foundations is in those 3 buckets of literacy, of numeracy, and the life skills and values. In terms of the stronger education systems, the kind of problems we are prioritizing, like embedding these skills in the curriculum or in teacher education or in the assessments, only government can do it at the scale that is needed. So we are targeting to reach at least 10 million children by 2030, and the only way is the pathway to support the education systems in the countries we have prioritized. And so we have to identify those levers, whether it is a power that needs to shift, whether it is mindsets of parents and teachers that need to shift, whether it is the technical capabilities of the people doing the work. So we have prioritized 5 those areas of intervention, or what we are calling outcomes, that we'll be working on and as what we'll be monitoring as core to our response. And that goal around stronger ecosystems for change is about identifying other organizations and playing that relational convening, supporting the networks in education that already exist and we are members of, to do more, but also to leverage evidence and the relative advantage of each organization, so that we are able to move faster as a community of interventions, but also deliver impact with government at the level that is needed. So this has informed a rebranding of the organization to portray these new ways of working, to portray the posture that the organization is going to take for the next 15 years at the minimum. And so the movement from Zizi Afrique to Mizizi Elimu Afrika is informed by all this overall change. Mizizi denotes now that that is not just a single route, one big route that was in Zizi, but it's several routes, and here I've mentioned the literacy, numeracy, but also these additional skills. So it's connoting that expansion of view, and that a tree cannot just depend on the taproot alone. Also these other supportive routes, all those competencies matter as we move into the future. And then we are not very certain, all certain about the future. It's the adaptability and the agility. And so Mizizi, it's supporting whatever direction things might move, the foundation and the trunk remains strong. Then Elimu is to differentiate between other Mizizis, that our core focus will remain education, and that has to be articulated. It was missing in our previous brand. And Africa, which now has a KA and not a QUE, the French version, is our own emancipation and the use of Kiswahili. As also because language justice is one of the themes we'll be working on. How can we be more conscious about language and about our context as a continent? And so supporting Kiswahili and the use of African languages, especially at the foundational level, is now core to our approach, which was never so deliberate and conscious in the previous epoch.
Absolutely. And this has also resulted in an organizational reassessment of skills that you need to carry this kind of vision. So also structure-wise, it's going to look different. You're going to have people in different leadership and roles, and you're doing a bit of positionality to ensure that the roots are backed by the relevant skills and competencies.
Yeah, this shift into the new strategy has necessitated also a shift in leadership. We cannot lead at the level that we used to lead. So part of it is restructuring the organization. So there will be an executive director who has 3 deputies, a deputy in charge of the core foundations, which will be the core area of work, a deputy director in charge of the research and evidence, all these supportive elements, including research dissemination and communication, and monitoring and evaluation, which are core to the delivery approach, and that deputy in charge of operations. So that level, the second level of leadership, is appearing now. It never used to be there, and it's part of also building succession, so that we are having more people with higher leadership capacity, and are able now to deal with more work and leading large portfolios of the organization, as opposed to what was previously a smaller Zizi Afrique.
As of 2026 January, what's the size of the team in terms of the capacity, vis-a-vis the capacity that you need to realize this? We imagine it will evolve with time, but who do you have, not who, what do you have in terms of the numbers of and capacity vis-a-vis what you'll be looking to achieve?
We are opening 2026 with around 55 staff members, against an organogram that has around 96 positions.
Okay.
So it's going to be incremental, as we are using a lot of this first half of 2026 to manage the transition and also recruit a few other core positions. So it is my hope that by end of 2026, we might close at around 60 staff members. Okay. And the others now will be dependent on the amount of resources available, or areas of work that we want to expand. And so this is going to be incremental, but the hope is that by around 2030, we will have stabilized into all the core capacities that are needed to have a highly performing African organization in the education sector.
You're 52 now. It's taken a number of years to get a startup organization to this place where it's breathing in new life, breathing in another 15. In 15 years, you'll probably be 67, closing in towards your 7th floor. Where do you see John in this path?
The work that I do is extremely exhausting work. Is work that, for instance, I'm not able to balance very well across my interests, especially my academic and scholarly interests. I was that person that always wanted to be, that professor that devotes a lot of my time to research, but this has not been possible in leading such an ambitious organization. And so I'm in that phase of looking ahead and knowing that this transition is heavy and it requires relative stabilizing. We are at also managing certain transitions in core areas of our work. One area of our work that deals with life skills and values is transiting now into a scaling phase in working with governments in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, including Zanzibar as a jurisdiction, and exploring also Rwanda. And that work, embedding life skills and values in the curriculum, in teacher training, in assessment, in parenting practices at home, is pretty ambitious. And connected to that, we are establishing a social enterprise called the African Center for Socio-Emotional Learning, MaqC, that will establish hopefully in Uganda, hosted by one of our partners. Again, it requires the institutional formation, the resourcing that is needed, the governance levels that are needed. And we are also we have established actually the Harnessing Education Research for Impact, HERI, which is a very ambitious Pan-African initiative of revitalizing university-led research that is led by Africans and having African research impacting on schools and communities. So I'm in that phase where I don't know how much of me will be needed over the next 1 or 2 years. But I know for sure that, first of all, this is the longest I've ever worked in any place. And unlike other places where I was employed, I can't just wake up and walk away and get the next job. This is not a job. I think I landed into some calling, and yet my nature is that I would have to move on to something else. And so my desire is to see this experience I have accumulated over these decades of leading policy research, large-scale assessments, establishing organizations. How could I be of use to other, younger leaders into maybe supporting the pipeline of leadership for education on the continent, or maybe supporting such countries that don't access any support, and whatever that form of support might look like. I'm thinking about countries like Burundi. Even though in East Africa community, you don't hear of any funder saying I was in Burundi, or other forgotten spaces like the Central Africa Republic. I don't know how I would be of use to leaders in such spaces, to support their agency, to connect them to where support could come from. So I feel some calling now that maybe not starting a new organization. I don't think now I want to. I think I should leave that to other people. Maybe it's more of consolidating my experience and making that available to the next generation.